Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 29th of 2023, and given that Disney and Bob Iger are really going through a lot of shakeups currently over everything that's been happening between all of the plans for the upcoming franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, and a whole lot more, and all the budgeting restrictions happening with those, and just Disney in general, we already know that there's one movie, Wish, that they are completely banking on to at least make that a success story for 2023. A little bit more on that later. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into what's going on with actress Rachel Zegler. Now, we all know that ever since she was let go from multiple Disney projects after her interviews went viral weeks ago, and those, by the way, were resurfaced interviews to begin with, a lot of the things that she did say were not approved by Disney. She was not allowed to say specific things, such as everything about Andrew Burnap and everything about Snow White 1937. Now, this is where matters get even worse for the current blacklisting of Rachel Zegler and what's happening with all of that behind closed doors. Now, we know that Rachel Zegler really is the finest example of box office poison, specifically with Snow White 2024. I mean, she's going to be the main reason why this movie's going to fail, and it also has a lot to do with the 7 magical creatures. We all know that already. However, this is where matters get even all the more serious when it comes to Disney's overall situation and Zegler's scenario as an actress in Hollywood. Now, with Rachel Zegler, of course, part of the ongoing drama with Snow White enhancing, one significant development surrounding her blacklisting has much to do with more Hollywood studios and how they put their finger on the panic button to steer clear from Zegler, who already damaged Disney's image further with her recent viral interviews that resurfaced. As it turns out, Universal has now officially decided to ditch any projects and conversations that they were having with Rachel Zegler. There was a plan in progress where Zegler was going to join the Fast and Furious franchise in order to expand into action and adventure films, where she was set to play Letty's cousin by Michelle Rodriguez. Now, these plans are, of course, and have now been completely pulled, and that they never want to even converse with Zegler and her agent or manager again after what happened with Disney removing Rachel from multiple projects after her interviews. Now, additionally, other studios such as Paramount and Warner Brothers have also decided to completely step away from Rachel Zegler and blacklisted her. Both Paramount and Warner Brothers were in talks to include her in other action films as well. Now, we already know that Zegler was in the talks to become Supergirl in the latest The Flash movie. That, by the way, failed at the box office and was pulled from theaters way, earlier than expected, to be honest, but we know that Zegler was this close to becoming that character, and she has a lot of contacts with WB, and even they went as far to drop all conversations with Zegler for the DC Universe, giving her another shot to becoming a part of this new rebooted DC Universe by James Gunn. You guys may very well know about this, that James Gunn is rebooting everything, but Blue Beetle came off to a very bad start, and it's already giving fans a lot of doubts about where things are going with Superman, Batman, and more. However, this is where matters get even more serious, is that on top of all of this, specifically, as it turns out, Warner Brothers was offering Zegler a chance to become a superhero in one of their upcoming DC movies by James Gunn, who is now rebooting the DC Universe, where Zegler already had close contacts at WB, and these immediately fell off a cliff once she said things in her interviews without Disney's permission that wrecked their image. Now, guys, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that it was really tightly between Sasha and Rachel from getting the role as Supergirl in The Flash. It was a real big decision by WB. She was this close to getting the role, and they chose Sasha. And so we know that the Flash movie would have only, I think, made things worse if it had Rachel Zegler. I can only imagine what she would have said in the press interviews and in the actual lineup to promoting the movie and a whole lot more on top of that. But this is where we realize that people like Rachel Zegler, you know, they don't really care about what they are instructed to do by the upper, you know, supervision over at different studios. We know that people at Disney were very unhappy about Zegler really, you know, going off the script and talking about how Andrew Burnap's scenes might get cut anyway, and how she thought that was funny, and all these different things about, you know, the prince being a creepy stalker, or whatever she said in the 1937 original. Disney was not happy about that, but everything else, Disney did give her the green light to actually say and talk about, so Disney's not innocent either. You know, it's just that some things they felt were way too extreme for even her to talk about. And a lot of studios looked at that. A lot of studios looked at those interviews, looked at those things that went viral, and they see how that's all it really takes for a company to really, you know, lose a franchise or lose a film and really destroy their own image with just one actress and/or actor. Now, this is where we know that Rachel Zegler is already getting ready to, you know, begin to promote. If the SAG strike ends earlier than expected, she will begin to promote the Hunger Games prequel. And she can only really talk about this if the SAG strike comes to a close. That's the one thing that she's banking on right now. However, on top of that, alright, this was the real turnoff for other studios, that this, of course, and how it all takes place to damage a franchise prematurely and to destroy a studio's image. Now, surprisingly, James Gunn is fighting for Rachel Zegler's restriction from WB to be removed and to give her a shot in a superhero film. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of James Gunn, to be honest with you guys. I'm really not. I never really enjoyed him as a person or as a creator. That's just my take on things. I'm not a big fan of the guy, especially after what he had wrote on Twitter before in the past, which, you know, is gonna stay on the internet forever. I mean, let's be honest here. But what's interesting about this, to top this all off, Disney finalized their decision to not shoot any planned Snow White extra footage or features for the Disney Plus version with Rachel Zegler after they removed her from all the Disney projects as well. So again, they're not really doubling down on extra features for the Snow White live action remake on the digital release. That is all called off right now. That is all not happening because they did have some ideas to do an audio commentary, to really have Zegler and Gal talk about the movie from start to finish. They're not doing that anymore, apparently, so that's another big development about how severe, you know, this production really is for Snow White the live action remake. It's really not going good at all in the least sense of things. We know that both Gal, director Mark Webb, writer Greta Gerwig, Rachel Zegler, all of these individuals are deeply impacted by this movie, and it's going to be a big impact on their careers as well. You know, definitely even Gal. You know, I don't think that her stardom power is large enough. I mean, it's still large, but I don't think it's large enough where everyone's going to forget about that movie, you know, in a year or two, and maybe even 3 years. You know, it's going to be that level of bad. So anyway, guys, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.